Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Tuesday here in New Brunswick. As Tuesday night, as you know, we're here recapping episodes 3 and 4 of Breaking Bad. I mentioned last week it's one of my favorite shows. I know Shay hadn't watched it in a long time, but we're only 4 episodes in, and it's already super interesting, and we'll have a lot to discuss tonight, different plot lines and different scenes that I think are really interesting. But Shay, how was your weekend? How are things up in Saint Jean?
Good, good. We are gonna make a small trip down to Fredericton, but it never happened just with the cases outbreaking there. But
Mhm.
other than that, it was quiet. Got a little work done. Got around a Gelfon on Sunday with a couple older gentlemen, Larry and David. They're both good guys, and no, everything's going pretty good so far. How about you?
Good, yeah, no, weather's been good, so all good there. And I'd like to see the Twitter world start crying over my boy Tom Wilson laying a beating on some people, and I'm glad that he did not get a 30-game suspension like I think a lot of people were expecting today.
Yeah, I got no comment. I if I wanted to say what I wanted to say, we might be talking about hockey more than we were talking about Breaking Bad. But
Right.
yeah, it worked out well. But the only thing I don't understand is how the NHL hands out 5K fines like they are anything other than
Yeah.
a little prick on the hand. Like if you're gonna find somebody, find the big money like 50K or something like that. Like actually making it meaningful. Anyways, that's just my side, but
Yeah,
that's
the
that's it.
maximum being 5 grand does not make any sense to me either.
No, it's not hurting anybody.
You got that in cash, and
Yeah.
he probably just swatted old Jerry Bettman right in the face with that 5 grand. But as you know, I love him. I'm glad he'll be in the lineup tomorrow.
Kind of like kind of like Aaron Paul does to Brian Cranston at the end
Yes,
of the fourth episode.
we will get into that. I love that scene. Um, but yeah, episodes 3 and 4 tonight. Obviously, 3 is I think the pinnacle. Really, this we see Walter White become Walter White in a sense. At least the start of the antagonistic character that we love about him. But what would you make of the 2 episodes as a whole?
Good, yeah. If I were somebody previewing them for people watching, they may be a little bit slower. I think there was a lot digested in the first two,
Yeah.
just with the character introductions and everything getting underway right away. They were cooking and everything. There's no cooking in either of these episodes, but I thought for both parties. They were both there's a lot of player development really in both of them, and I really like everything that goes on with um, Jesse's character in episode 4, especially and the
Agreed.
background that it shows. So it's interesting, and I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, no, I agree about Jesse's character and his. We'll get to his parents, which I think are really
Yeah.
polarizing characters. I know just watching the show with my mother, she hated them. But we'll get into that. But episodes 3 begins with Walter and Jesse cleaning up Emilio's remains. If you remember listening last week, episode 2, we see Jesse does not listen to Walter. He puts Emilio's body in the tub, pours acid in it. It dissolves metal. So, of course, it breaks through the floor, and we see the guts everywhere to start the episode. It's pretty disgusting. They have their full mask on, wiping down and cleaning up. Just you see red everywhere. It's actually a really cool shot where you see basically the floor angle of them
Mm.
wiping it up. And at the same time, we see a flashback to Walter working with this younger woman, and they're talking about different molecules and compounds. And oddly enough, they are discussing what compounds, what molecules make up a human being, which is, of course, they're cleaning a human being. I thought this was really clever and an interesting way to begin an episode.
Yeah, even the flashback is really cool because they're in this big, what seems like empty auditorium, just the two of them. But in the background, it's this huge glass windows, and in the back of that, it's just these beautiful mountains in the back.
Mm.
And it's kind of a more, you could right out of the bat, you see it's a more confident Walter White. He's buzzing. He's got a full head of lettuce, which is just weird to see, to be honest, throughout the when when you think about it, I guess throughout the rest of the series. But no, it was good, and yeah, that's a pretty disgusting scene. They're pouring all this Emilio's, I guess, remains into the toilet, and then God knows where that goes. At one point, Walter picks up a jawbone. It's like, Oh, it's kind of it's some nasty stuff. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, 100%. And even Jesse mentions that they're his his house smells like spray cheese or foot cheese, something like that, spray cheese. Because they got all these baking soda on the floor, which is super. But they're cleaning that up. Then we pivot to Skylar, and she's painting. And as we remember, she does not know that Walter has cancer. She just knows that he's buying weed and that he's acting out of the ordinary. And Marie's visiting, and Walter Jr. is helping her paint. And Skylar asks Marie if she's ever smoked pot. And, Marie's kind of like defensive because her husband's a DEA agent, but she says, well, it was college, whatever. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I dabbled. And she goes, yeah, I think, I mean, I obviously tried it too. And she goes, I worry about us now doing it. And Marie thinks she's talking about Walter Jr. because he just left the room, and it's this really, they're talking in rhymes here. They're talking in riddles because she's trying to mention Walter without saying his name, and Marie is like, Walter doesn't smoke pot. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So Marie kind of freaks out a little bit, and she calls Hank and basically tells him, you need to set him straight. Like, he's your nephew. We cannot have Walter Jr. smoking pot.
Yeah. And what's funny about that scene about her painting too, it's like she's sitting there complaining about her shoes and all my shoes are so clunky, where you have a guy with MS or it's not to MS. Well, what is it?
Got cerebral palsy.
Cerebral palsy. Sorry, I get them. And then Skylar, who's pregnant, they're up on a ladder painting, and she's just kind of complaining there. Just says a lot about her character. I just wanted to bring that up. No, but yeah, no. The way Skylar paints it does kind of make it seem, and you're around that age too when you're in high school, right? You're dabbling in probably things you shouldn't have been, just like both of us have in the past. Right. So yeah, it kind of made sense where Marine Mind was going. And, I don't know if I'd take Hank very seriously, but I guess his strategy later in this episode kind of does him justice, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that scene. That's one of my favorites from this episode.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, interesting how far he goes to really paint the picture. But you know what? He's a good uncle in that sense. We'll get to that scene. So they go through that, and we pivot back, and Crazy 8 and Walter start to converse a little bit. He tells Walter his last name. He tells Walter that he says Walter White, and then he tells Walter he knows he's a high school teacher. And Walter obviously freaks out because he's like, whoa. Even if I wanted to let this guy live, he knows me. Like, he can come find me. And Crazy 8 says, well, your partner's got a big mouth. And Crazy 8's clearly trying to initiate some friction between the two partners and potentially cause them to fight, or potentially lean one way and get him out of the predicament that he's in.
Yeah, I think over this episode, we see that Crazy 8's a much better conversationalist and thinker than maybe that we saw in the last two episodes, because he's playing mind games with both of them, probably, even though we don't really see a whole lot of discussion between him and Jesse. But yeah, he's just getting all into Walter White's mind. And, he breaks down the door, and Jesse's in there smoking meth. In the bathroom, and then they get into this big fight, which I thought was really funny because both of them are just awkward. They're not really like, I don't know, like Walter's trying to dump it in the toilet, Jesse's like trying to make him stop. It's really funny, actually.
Yeah, Walter throws it in, then Jesse grabs it as about to flush, throws it out the window. They both start racing down the stairs, and we see Walter have his first really big coughing fit, where he has to stop running because he's coughing so much from the cancer. And he runs outside, but Jesse opens the gate. He's leaving. So Walter is freaking out, and he says, get back in here. You got to help me. Jesse says, no way, bitch. I did my part. Emilio's in the toilet, basically. And, Walter's like, I just spent the last hour helping you clean up your problem. And he said, you know what? Emilio's in the basement. Go deal with it. Basically, go deal with it. And There's also a great, I wrote this one down because I love this line. Um, Walter's basically, you're helping me. And Jesse goes, Hail Hitler, bitch. And then he gets, he gets in the car. Jesse gets in the car and he leaves basically for the rest of the episode. We see him briefly, but it's not in this context.
Yeah, and he keeps bringing up this like with this, oh, it's the rule of the coin. Oh, it's the coin. You know, he keeps bringing up he lives and dies by the rules of this coin, because he knows at the end of the day, like it's true. Like they flipped a coin and Walter lost, and he has to do a much dirtier job than him. But yeah, so throughout the rest of this episode, yeah, we see Walter kind of just living at Jesse's aunt's house, and I mean, yeah, it's just funny because is it shortly after this that's, you know, he calls Skylar, and you know, basically Skylar rips him a new asshole because Skylar's like, I called the car, like well, first of all, Walter says that he's at the car wash, you know, and Walter's like, oh yeah, yep, you are. Well, I called the car wash and you've quit 2 weeks ago. So it's one of those you're getting caught in your web of lies, and you know, now, well, and she's basically like, well, you're on your own, wherever you are, just stay there. So that gives Walter all the time to do his deed, but he still drags it on maybe a little longer than most people would thought.
Yeah, exactly. She calls his bluff and says, stay wherever you are, I don't want to see you. And he's, like you said, at Jesse's by himself, not his home.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows he's gonna have to kill Crazy 8 at some point, and he's dreading it. And he's at this point, he's still a normal high school. He's me or you. Me or you with this situation. We're not murderers. You know, we wouldn't know what to do in this situation. So, like you said, he's stuck there, and basically he's put in a situation where, okay, you're there for the night, get the job done, and we'll talk about what happens from there.
Yeah, exactly. And even towards, I don't know if it's in the middle or maybe towards the end of this episode, we see him have his second big coughing spree where he's kind of walking down. He's going to give Crazy 8 some food, and what does he do? He kind of drops at the foot of the stairs. His plate smashes. His cut up sandwich with no crust on it goes flying. And you know, he's laying on the floor for quite a while, what seems like at least
15 minutes.
Yeah, like he's out cold, which is obviously dangerous, because if you think about someone who's maybe driving and that happens to them, like that's obviously a hazard to the road, right? So yeah, what were your thoughts during this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got a sick guy, and the biggest luxury he can have is that Crazy 8 has literally no way to move. I mean, he can literally move an inch. He can barely stand up without the bike bike lock basically, you know, pulling him back. So it's interesting, and Walter's so nice. You mentioned he cuts off the crust. Like he's super. I think he's trying to be as nice as he can to try to justify what he's going to have to do later.
Right.
And we'll get into the beer scene, which I think is a great scene later. But yeah, he's clearly trying to be still a good man, a father figure, you know, in the back of his mind, knowing he's going to have to do something pretty terrible later on.
Right. And people might say, oh, but he, you know, he's the reason that Emilio died. Well, he was the reason Emilio died, but that was more self-defense, if anything.
Yeah.
And, you know, having to save his own life, because, you know, what was going to happen? He was going to make them meth in front of them, and then they were going to shoot him. That's, you know, that's
right,
about
yeah.
it.
Yeah, for Misha, I agree. I don't credit that as his first kill, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're stuck in a basement and somebody's, you know, you see an opening and you got a shovel and you hit a guy,
yeah,
that's not murder. That's self-defense. I mean, if you're stuck down there for a period of time, you're doing whatever you can to get out of it. So yeah. Then let's go to the Crystal Palace, as it were. Hank and Walter Jr. get in the car and they drive to this beaten down motel that's completely full of meth addicts. Let's just call it what it is. And Hank calls it the Crystal Palace, which is made me laugh because I just thought of Crystal Palace in Moncton as a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, we see a bunch of guys with tattoos, which made me laugh because, you know, I have a couple. And we get introduced to a recurring character that I think is really interesting. And her name is Wendy. And she's she's a hooker, and she's loves meth, and she's getting this, diet. She's getting this soda, and Hank says, "Hey, sweetheart, get over here. Don't let me ask you again." And Walter Jr. is just like, "What the hell are we doing here?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "I don't." He's like, what? And so Wendy comes over, and Hank's like, "Show me your teeth. Show me your teeth. You on the pipe?" She opens up her mouth. You see it's gross teeth. Like,
Yeah.
you can tell she's been doing meth for years. And yeah, you could touch on what she thinks she's gonna have to have sex with Walter Jr.
Yeah, she basically looks at poor Walter Jr. and is like, "I'm not sleeping with him."
Yeah.
And they're like, "No." And then I always love Hank's, like he kind of tries to build up Walter Jr.'s confidence all the time. He's like,
Yes.
yeah, he's like, no, 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 like he was a star quarterback. He just broke his arm. And, he just makes comments like that all the time and trying to help him out. I think it's, even though Hank is a little bit of a bully or seems like a little bully, he does have a soft spot for his nephew. But yeah, so poor Wendy. And I agree. Like I forgot all about this character when we started to watch this again, but she's a reoccurring character that comes again and again. And spoiler alert, she's kind of sleeping, I guess, with Jesse Pinkman, who is up in one of the rooms, which
Yeah.
is another thing I totally forgot about. I was like, oh shit, like yeah, like this is his hideout, I guess, or this is away from home. But yeah, so that's going on, and yeah, Wendy and Jesse get it on a little bit and smoke a
Yeah.
little crack and having a great time up in the Crystal
Yeah.
Palace.
He's freaking out. Like, he's looking out the windows. Who are you talking to? And she
Yeah.
goes, "Oh, just some quarterback." And yeah, she's clearly strung out, but we do learn more about her later on. We learn that in later seasons she stays close to Jesse, and I think they do have a genuine friendship because she does a lot to help him throughout the show.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
So yeah, they leave. She goes back up with Jesse, and then so we see Jesse's. That's where he is this whole episode. He's with Wendy, having a good time. Um, so we pivot to Walter. He's still at Jesse's. He's creating a pros and cons list of killing Crazy Eight, and then the con, let him go. He comes back and kills my whole family, and and then
It's his only con too. It's the only
it's
reason not to let him live.
yeah. So he doesn't have many cons on there, but at this point, Crazy Eight's kind of calling down, saying he's hungry. So Walter makes him another sandwich, like you said. This is at this point where he falls, and
Oh yeah.
he shatters the plate, and he's out for 10-15 minutes. And he picks up all the pieces, and he goes and makes him another sandwich, throws it all in the garbage. So he makes him another sandwich, and they go downstairs, and Walter this time brings the sandwich and a 6-pack of beer, and he divulges to the first person in his life. He tells Crazy Eight he has lung cancer.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, for him, it must have been like a relief off the chest. Like you've been holding. Like we find out later that he's been holding it in for at least a few weeks, probably
Probably
not
a
telling
month.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, not telling a single soul that that he has it. And I don't know if he tells Crazy Eight thinking, well, I'll tell you, but then maybe I'll kill you after. Maybe I don't know. That's what I kind of thought. But then I was like, well, maybe he was never. He's obviously debating by making this checklist whether he was going to do it in the first place. But yeah, no, yeah, it's a tough scene, to be honest. But then like there's parts where they're talking and Walter's tearing up, and it seems like a very genuine conversation. It's a great performance by I don't know his name, unfortunately, but whoever plays Crazy Eight does a great job of really selling a role of being a very genuine person.
Right. Yeah. He tells Walter, he gives him some info. He says his real name's Domingo, which is Spanish for Sunday, and he's got a business degree, and his father owns a a furniture store. And Walter says, well, I know that store. And they sing this jingle together. And Domingo says, well, I probably ran you up when you bought your crib. And, they joke about his dad being a pushy salesman and wanting them to get the extra coverage. And like you said, Domingo is a lot more clever than your average meth dealer because he knows how to relate to Walter. He would
Yeah.
he would talk to Jesse completely different, as we saw with the dog, than he is right now with Walter, a mature adult.
Yeah, and we see it later on. I'm not going to say who says it, but he built his way up through the ranks rather quickly. It sounds like, because he's still a very young man.
Right.
So obviously he's very smart. And he even said, well, there's a point where Walter's like, well, I'm sure that business. I mean, does that business degree ever come into handy when you're, selling meth? And he's like, you'd be surprised it does. So this guy's clearly, he's educated and he's smart. We find out more that he went against his father, and he basically said fuck you to his dad and walked out of the store and never probably spoke to him ever again. But yeah, no, it's just lots of genuine conversation between the two. And obviously when you're having a couple beers and Walter, like you said, opens up about his cancer and not telling anybody, and everything that he's going through, trying to make a couple bucks on the side so he doesn't leave his family with nothing, essentially. Because at the end of the day, this is all this show is Walter I'm sure it turns into more, obviously, but at the beginning it's him trying not to leave his family with nothing. And we'll probably get into that more into the fourth episode, but that's definitely the theme throughout the whole show.
Yeah, it's the crux. Yeah, it's the baseline for the entire show for sure. And Crazy Eight even says to Walter, he said, meth doesn't suit you. He said, that's not, you get out of the meth game. And he says, Walter, I'm not gonna come find you. Basically, I'm not gonna hurt you. Go get the key. Let me go. You're going to. You're not gonna kill me. And Walter says, you know what? I'm gonna go up and get the key, and I'm gonna let you go. So he grabs the plate from him and empty beer cans and goes upstairs to the garbage, and he throws a beer in, but he notices something, and it's all the pieces of the plate, and he takes them all out, and it's like a puzzle. He recreates the plate, but he notices one of the pieces is missing, and he instantly knows Crazy Eight has one, because he was out for 10-15 minutes. The plate shattered, so it went everywhere. And he's like, no. He does it, and he knows he can't let him go because he's going to kill him instantly. He's got a piece of blade, stab him in the neck, you're dead. So he does get the key, and he heads down the stairs, and some things happen after that.
Yeah, he's very timid. I just remember the first time watching that, actually, Juggy, and I was just like, what is he doing? Like, I didn't think anything of it, to be honest. Right. And then when I actually saw the missing piece, I was like, oh my God, like, how would you even think to look, like, to relook and to put all those back together just in case? So he goes down there, gets the key. He's like, oh, turn around. So Crazy, it's like, you're doing the right thing here, Walter. Like, you're a good man, essentially. Mm-hmm. Turns around, he knows he's got the piece on him, and Walter's timid, and I forget exactly what he says, but he's basically just
Walter's taking a long time.
Yeah,
let's go, and he goes, yeah, I'm going. He says, but when I let you go, are you gonna stick me with that blade? And Crazy Eight starts grabbing the blade. Walter grabs the bike lock and basically starts yanking back on it. So he's on this little pole. It's smaller than a stripper pole, and he starts yanking back on the bike lock, and Crazy Eight's getting suffocated to death. And Walter's pulling back on it. At the same time, Crazy Eight's got his right arm, and he's trying to stab Walter with it. And at one point, Walter puts his right leg on the pole to get more leverage to kind of yank back harder, and he takes two significant strikes into his leg, like deep cuts of the blade into his leg. But eventually, Crazy 8 runs out of air, and Walter has killed his true first victim here. Crazy 8 is dead.
Yeah, he snaps that windpipe, and
Yeah.
it's gone after that. It's funny, like he was the episode before. He's up, he's looking at all these things. He's got a knife, he's got guns,
Mm-hmm.
he's got a bag at one point. But when it comes down to it, I mean that was probably one of the easier ways, and probably one of the cleaner ways of getting that job done. But yeah, I mean that's the first victim, Crazy 8, and unfortunately, there's many more victims to come.
Yeah. So he's in shock at first because he just killed another human being,
Mm-hmm.
and he's kind of just sitting there looking at Crazy 8, his lifeless body, but he does what any good cleaner does. He cleaned up his mess. We don't really see him do it. We pivot to Jesse the next day returning home. We don't see the Aztec. The gates open. So Jesse parks. He goes and checks the RV, completely spotless. You couldn't tell any. There was a chemical, nothing in there. So that's clean. Then Jesse's like, "Hello, anyone down there?" Goes down the basement. It's spotless.
Yeah.
The only thing remaining sitting on the wall is the bike lock, oddly enough. And so Jesse doesn't know where Mr. White is. He doesn't really know if Crazy 8's dead. I mean, if we're really thinking about it, Shay, how would he know?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the only way he would know if he was dead or not is if Walter just basically did it and just left his body there, or if he was still alive when he got there. So yeah, exactly. And I guess I think Jesse knew deep down that Crazy 8 had to die. There was no way you were going to let him live. He obviously knew where Jesse lived. Jesse gave him enough information probably about Walter.
They killed his cousin.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. They killed someone he knew, and everything else they did to him on top of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. So no, and then I think the end of the episode is just Walter returning home. Like it was like another office day for Walter. Didn't seem to phase him a whole lot. He looked a little tired, but that was understandable. Walks in, puts his suitcase down, throws his keys, and walks to his room. And there's Skylar on the bed, and finally says something he should have said a while ago.
Yeah, he says, I got something I got to tell you. And before the episode ends, we actually see Hank and Gomi in the field.
Yes.
They find Crazy 8's car, and they actually find the crystal. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about what they find so interesting about the crystal, but they find it in the car. They also find the mask that was left behind. The family that was there is talking to the police. So they give them the mask. And it's interesting because it's the first real connection between Hank and Walter as it spirals towards, the head-to-head matchup that we see throughout the series.
Yeah, exactly. And this whole, I guess, hiding that Walter does, and basically sitting underneath Hank's nose for a long time without him ever knowing. But no, it's a good episode. Obviously, there's a huge climax at the end. Mm-hmm. And a slight build up, but I thought it was a good episode overall. It was the end of Crazy 8, who I thought for the couple episodes he was in the show was pretty good. He was a good actor, and I don't know, what were your thoughts on this
episode? Yeah, I thought it was episode 3. You see Walter really take his first victim, which is interesting because it sets up a lead up to the show. You see him start to tell Skylar that he has cancer, which is obviously a huge part of the whole entire series. I mean, it's the main plot. Mm-hmm. And then, we lead into different storylines in episode 4, which are obviously interesting. But if you do enjoy Crazy 8, watch Better Call Saul, because he's in a lot of it. He's actually a main fixture in that show. So if you enjoy Crazy 8, he's in that program, which is a fantastic spinoff. And we'll talk about, Saul Goodman, who I love. But that brings us to episode 4, which is titled Cancer Man. And I think what I love, Shay, about Breaking Bad, I love a lot of it, but the start of the episodes, you're either going to get really good foreshadowing to what's going to happen later in the episode, or they give you really really interesting detail at the beginning of episodes that I think is great. And in this episode, it's Hank talking to fellow DEA agents about the case primarily. They found in Crazy Eight's car, they found the meth. And what they discovered is it's 99.1% pure, which is unheard of because, a lot of the meth is just stepped on shit, for lack of a better word. It's, it's made in these crummy, these sites are just bad. This meth is elite. It's a Bentley. So Walter says, well, Crazy Eight's is presumed dead, but what we learn about Crazy Eight, which I find interesting too, he's basically a snitch. He finds out who's selling, rats on them, and then steals their customers. So you mentioned his business degree. He's a smart cat. He's eliminating the competition and taking their customer base. So he's doing that. But the end of the opening is Hank saying, I think Albuquerque has a new kingpin. And honestly, it's Walter just sitting talking to his family, which is
he's got his gut out and he's brushing his teeth and he's all, what it's like. Sometimes you're brushing your teeth, you're getting all in there, and that's what it's like. He's like, yeah, Albuquerque's got this new scary kingpin, and it's just plain old Walter doing his thing.
Walter, yeah. Brushing his teeth early in the morning with the old boiler hanging out.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And this and to comment on what you said about the meth, like there's even a point where Hank says that their own chemists who do, who ran the I guess the autopsy on the drugs there, they couldn't recreate a better meth than that.
No,
so that just showed
more pure.
Yeah, and they have every tool probably known to man to do so. So it just shows you how smart Walter is and how good he's going to become at doing this.
Exactly. His first bake was 99.1% pure. I mean, we see how finicky he gets about that later, but his product is good, for lack of a better word. We pivot to a family barbecue where the Schraders, Hank and Marie, have joined Skyler, Walter, and Walter Jr. And it's clear that Skyler and Walter Jr., or maybe not Walter Jr. at this point, but Skyler knows that Walter has cancer because they start talking about love, how they met. And Hank tells this cool story about how he, wouldn't give up on trying to get Marie. And it's about persistence with women. And, he asked her 50 times, but eventually he got her, which was a cool story. And he asked Walter to share his. And Walter's is kind of less cool, but, it's cool. It's in his own way cool. Skyler was this hostess and she did crossword puzzles. So he brought a crossword puzzle every day. And he said he sucked at them. He didn't think he finished one, but at one day he asked her, what's this on the crossword puzzle, the New York Times crossword puzzle? And, Walter Jr.'s like interested, because normally he's kind of aloof with his parents. But Hank's like, see, your dad was a stud too. But it's at this point, Skyler starts crying uncontrollably and leaves the table and just says, Hank's like, well, Sky, what's wrong? And she says, ask him.
Which, I mean, for them could imply multiple things. Maybe he's having an affair, maybe he's something, else. But obviously, and then, if you're in Walter's position, you got to tell the truth. You're in the spotlight at this point. So he tells them that he has lung cancer. And then in a Walter fashion, it's kind of, there's an awkward kind of silence and like a shock. And then he just kind of waits and he goes, it's bad. and then the scene pivots to them in the house. But I just always got a kick out of that. Like has to elaborate on on how bad it is at that very second.
It's bad. It's bad. I also think this scene is really, it's not a huge one, so to speak, but I think it's really telling. I think Walter loves Hank. It's his brother-in-law, but he resents him because Hank's successful. He's a DEA agent. He's got some status. And Hank says in this kind of, I wouldn't say cavalier, but he means it sincerely, but he's also telling Walter, hey, whatever happens, I'll always take care of your family. And it's also digging at Walter that he can't. And Walter's just like,
Yeah, it's basically
Yeah.
a shot to his pride, Juggy, in a
Oh,
way,
100%.
because I mean, even if Hank didn't mean to do that, it still is, because Walter's like, well, that's just implying that I can't, and I think Hank knows that I can't. So yeah, it's obviously shitty, um, but this is why Walter does what he does, and Hank is still at this point just kind of a bully, I guess. He's not more than that, but as we get to the further into the series, we see that he's more genuine than what meets the eye.
Yeah, 100%. And Marie says, just wait. I'm going to set you up with one of the best oncologists in the country, which she does. And Walter, he's less than excited about this because he knows how much that's going to cost him. He doesn't have the money, and he's like, yeah, great. Yeah, I'm so excited for that. But it's almost like he'd rather die than get better medical coverage because he knows it's going to financially drain his family.
Yeah, and there's shortly after this, there's a conversation between, Skylar and Walter, and they're kind of talking about it, and they're like, oh, like, this is what this is going to cost, and it's a tough conversation. But Walter's just like, should we do this? Because if we do this, like, I really am, leaving you with nothing and in a terrible amount of debt. And it's not that it's a funny scene, it's pretty serious rather, but you can hear Walter Jr. chime up from a little ways away, and he's like, why don't you just fucking die already?
Yeah,
and
I love his little chime-ins. I think he's
oh yeah,
funny.
yeah, well, he's hilarious, and obviously he's hurt, like, you know what I mean, like, this is devastating news for any family to hear, but to know that your own father doesn't have long after this, so he's butthurt about it, but he wants to see his father fight, which he ends up doing. So spoiler alert, he does end up getting treatments, but yeah,
I mean, I think you'd have a similar reaction. I
think anyone would.
I mean, if it was if you're a person that's got cancer 3-4 times, I think that's different. If it keeps coming back, Walter, he hasn't seen a doctor yet, and he's like, oh, I'm done. And Walter Jr. just like be more like Hank, fight, like just fucking go die already. I love that line, but
exactly.
Yeah, Walter even finds out it's a $5,000 deposit just to see the oncologist, which is
it's pricey.
So he's like, I'll take it from my pension, which is tells you the financial situation that they're in. We pivot to Jesse, and we get introduced to two other characters that are recurring. I thought we'd see Badger, but we don't in this episode. We see Skinny Pete, who back in the day, he reminded me of you because I think you two look similar.
Okay, all right.
I think if you look at him like when he's not all methed out, he's a good looking guy, the actor.
Thank you.
So I always, that was a joke between me and Dawson back when the Skinny P was Shamus, but
one of my nicknames.
We get Skinny Pete and Combo, who's he's not Skinny Pete.
He's on the other side. Yeah, he's on the other side of that.
Yeah, the sizes are definitely tells you all you need to know about these two gentlemen, but they're Jesse's friend. They're friends, but at this point, we don't really know a lot about them. They're just there hanging out, and Skinny Pete's like, so Jesse, cooking any crystal? And just like, yeah, I dabble every now and then, and they decide to smoke a bowl together, but Combo and Skinny Pete think it's the best that they've ever had.
Yeah, and I think this shows a lot about Jesse's relationships with others, because they're friends, but they almost seem like leeches. Like they're there because they know Jesse's got connections with people who make meth. He makes meth, so they think that you might have some on him. And to me, like rewatching this, I'm like, okay, well, they're his friends, but they're not great friends, obviously, because they're not ride or dies, or they're not there just to enjoy his company. The minute he's basically says, oh, I think I don't have any, or oh, I'm not going to share it, they're like, okay, well, we're going to leave. And then as soon as he's like, no, I'm just kidding, guys, like I have some, they're like, oh, we'll stay, you know what I mean? So it just kind of shows the relationships he has with some of the people around him, which is obviously unhealthy, but yeah. And then it's like you said, they're blown away because and he's hesitant. I don't know why he's so hesitant to show them, like, or share it with them. Is there a reason for it, do you think?
Yeah, maybe he's worried that Crazy Eight had some in the car. Maybe that's the only thing I could really think of. But I don't know if he wants to smoke it, but I think he's also a little worried to smoke it because he's so worried. As we see, it pivots to the next day. He's still smoking some, but he doesn't, like we said, he doesn't know that Crazy Eight's dead. Crazy Eight could have escaped, could have killed Walter, who knows, and come back and finish the job. So he's staring out the window while he's smoking, and he's having hallucinations where he sees these two Sons of Anarchy type bikers pull up to his his street basically, and they get off, come to the door, and we hear this. I think it's good editing. We hear this huge knock, like they're trying to bang down the door. So Jesse flees the house, climbs underneath the RV, then jumps the fence to try to escape. And it pivots to the real scene. It's two Jehovah's Witnesses.
I forgot all about when you first watching this, and I forgot all about it, Jug. It's funny because I'm like, oh my god, like these people are actually after him, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's just side effects of doing the meth.
Yeah.
So this pivots, and is there something happen with Walter before he lands at his final destination for this episode?
Looking here, Walter got in a fight there with the family. But we do see some foreshadowing actually in the scene before we see Jesse talk to his family. Walter's going to the credit union to get money out to pay for the oncology appointment. And we see this asshole basically. Walter's waiting to get a parking spot. The guy steals it from Walter. He's got an earpiece in. He's a lawyer. And he's talking about picking up chicks and how this case is so easy. And, the clerk's talking to him and he's not even acknowledging her. He's just like throws her the page, and he's an arrogant asshole, and we'll see him later on. But Walter has a hatred for him from the get-go.
Oh yeah. Like there's even a point where he's just staring at him at the tell, and he's got this mean death stare right at him, right in towards his direction, and the teller's like calling him over, and he's just can't even focus. And then finally he kind of snaps out of it and walks over. But yeah, it's funny, and I'll bring it back to something he says in this episode later on. But yeah, this guy is just a complete dick.
Yeah,
put it the nicest way.
Yeah. So we then pivot to people we don't know. It's a family, two older people and the younger son. They're talking about playing the instruments and cello and soccer, and it's clearly like this kid's kind of a whiz kid, so to speak, and they hear noise in the backyard. The mom's like, what's that? And we see who's stuck in the lawn furniture, but Jesse. And at first, I'm like, when I first watched it, I'm like, okay, well, he was running through the yards because he's so afraid he got stuck. But we learn that this is his parents' home, and that's his younger brother, Jake. So he's returned back to his old roots, and he ends up crashing there for a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and like, I guess how they know each other is kind of when the father kind of looks a little bit more relaxed when he sees that it's Jesse and not some bum going around. But I think it just says so much about Jesse's character that he's climbing through the back fence, and instead of going up to the front door, you know what I mean? Like, what was his plan? Like to go through the back door and go up to his room and fall asleep instead of like just knocking in the door saying, "Hi, Mom. Hey, Dad. Can I crash here?"
Yeah. Clearly, they don't have a good relationship.
Right off the gate, you can tell.
Jesse goes to his old bedroom, and he basically passes out for 24 hours. He doesn't move hardly. His parents, you see, it's a great shot. You see the whole day, like the sun, the cars whizzing by, and then it's dark again when he wakes up. And they're making dinner, and they're talking like, what are we gonna do with him? Like, can we let him stay here? Do we trust him? And it's kind of this, I think it's kind of a sad but also endearing moment for Jesse, because he just goes and sets the table. I think he so clearly wants to be accepted by his parents, and they're not really willing to give him a chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll see it the later this episode. It's not really his doing that gets him
Yeah.
booted, but unfortunately, there is that kind of caution sign over his head throughout the episode with his parents. Like, hey, there's even a part where him and Jake are just kind of in their room talking, not doing anything. The mom comes in and
Yeah.
basically is like, "Oh, how's it going in here? Like, what are you guys talking about?" And
That was so
leaves,
transparent.
yeah, leaves the door open. Like, oh, like you can't be left with closed doors with his own brother.
Right.
So it's interesting, and then they do let him stay, but obviously they're cautious about his presence in their home.
Yeah, and you mentioned keeping the door open. Like Jake is like this he's like a museum. You can't touch him. You can't go in there and leave dirt or touch any of the items because Jake is the kid that they love. He's the kid that they're trying to nurture and lead down the right path and be the whiz kid, while Jesse's the druggy burnout who's turned into nothing. And I think it shows that they gave up on him a while ago, and
Yeah.
I I just I really don't like his parents. I hope I'm never a parent, as you know, because I do not want kids ever. But if I did parent, you can't give up on your kid. I mean, you
Yeah.
got to try to help them. I mean, they're your kids forever, and I think they really have shown that they take the easy way out a lot in the series.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And this is their first. I don't know how many appearances they make throughout, but yeah, like this is just kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth throughout the rest. And they don't really seem to do much for Jesse outside of basically letting him stay there and giving him the free food, washing his clothes, but doesn't seem like they help him in any other way.
No, so that's happening. So we see Walter. He goes to the oncologist, and he's they talk about it. He's going to need chemotherapy and radiation, which obviously is as bad as it can get. And Walter's like, well, what's the side effects? And the doctor said, well, there can be none. I mean, you could also have hair loss and weight loss, and he goes through them. But I think Skylar's really optimistic, and the doctor clearly says, I wouldn't say it's curable. I prefer the word treatable, and
Yeah.
I think that's you get lung cancer. I think I mean, I went through it with my grandfather. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be treatable and prolong life, but it's not necessarily going to you can't really cure it a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's no getting rid of it, unfortunately. And I think Walter's more of not pessimistic, but more realistic, I guess I would say, in the fact that he knows what's coming. And at the end, I think at the end of his mind, he knows maybe he doesn't feel like it's a waste of time, but he feels like it's a waste of money that could be spent on, things that they'll need for their future.
Right.
So
Even Walter Jr. He costs a lot extra money because he needs pills and he's got cerebral palsy, so he's already a big expense for the family, him having a disability.
yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, I don't know if we get into it now or later about how much money that cancer makes and cancer treatment makes, but it's a industry in its own that you could say suckles the funds out of some families, we'll say.
100%. And I've had this conversation with my mother, who was obviously in the healthcare world, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm a theorist. And I've thought for a while that that there's a cure for cancer somewhere. I just find it very hard to believe that there isn't one, and
Yeah.
a cure for cancer would kill the healthcare world, kill the pharmacy industry,
Mm.
because you wouldn't need half of the resources that you need. I mean, like you said, long-term care beds, hospital bills in the United States. It's such a huge industry, and it can financially burden families for years and potentially generations of families
Mhm.
down the line.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. I mean, I think, not to bring the Family Guy into this, but I think there's a whole episode on Family Guy about how there is, and them kind of, I guess, kind of taking the jab at the fact that there probably should be a cure by now, but
I
I don't
mean,
know with
there's a
all that.
vaccine for COVID after a year.
Yeah, so I can't. Yeah, exactly. That's just it. And I mean, there's going to be some brainiac out there probably disproving us, but at the end of the day, we're the farthest we've ever made in human life. So I can't see that at least one smart person can come up with something.
Right. So yeah, that we agree on
We
that.
we had to rant. We had to rant because I mean, it's a topic obviously that
I
throughout
mean,
the show that we think about.
it affects somebody that you know throughout your life. It's
Exactly.
impossible to go through life and not know somebody who passes away or at least has had cancer, and
Hmm.
you see the effects of it. So we go back to Jesse, still with his parents, and he gets a call from Combo. And Combo says, that's the best crystal I've ever had. And I gave some to my cousins who are in town, and they want to buy all you got. And Jesse's like, well, he's a little tentative because he's like, I don't really know the buyer. And, I don't know if I should do this, but he does it. And Skylar leaves the house. And who knocks on Walter's door but Jesse? And Walter's so PO'd. He goes, what the hell are you doing here? He goes, I saw the ball buster leave, and then I came in. He goes, I thought we would, debrief. And Walter's like, debrief? He goes, yeah, debrief, touch base. And Walter's like, what the hell do we have to touch base about? We're done. Like, leave me alone. Like, you're out of my life. And Jesse, I think he's kind of pissed because he's been thrown. What we mentioned, his parent, he's been thrown away his entire life. He looks at Mr. White as a friend already. Jesse gives friendship very easily, and he doesn't give it back in return. So he's he's pissed off, and he looks at Walter and he goes, well, here's your cut for what we sold, and it's over $4,000, which is almost the payment for the oncology deposit. And he basically says, here you go, bitch, and throws all the money at him. And it's cool because it Walter's treatment we to find out cost $90,000.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of money, and I think that's the first sign of Walter saying, I made $4,000 off a little batch of meth.
Mm-hmm.
Makes him think for sure.
Yeah, and to put it clear, there's even a conversation that we kind of went over between him and Skylar's like, well, we could always borrow from Hank.
Yeah.
And Walter is very firm on, Hank is
No.
not going to have any part of that. That it goes back to that conversation that him and Hank had at the beginning of the episode where Hank's like, I'll take care of family, and Walter's a proud man, like most men would be in this scenario, and say, no, I'm not going to take from others. Like I'm going to have to find a provide. And that basically sums up, what's going to happen here in the later episode. And obviously Walter, turns away Jesse, but he does that without knowing how much he made off that little bit.
Right. So yeah, Jesse throws it, ends up in the pool. Walter's scooping it out with the net, which is funny. We then pivot to a cleaning lady at Jesse's parents, and she's cleaning up Jesse's room. And in one of the plants in the room, she finds a joint. And the parents start grilling Jesse and say, what are you doing with this in our home? Like this can't happen here. You can't do this. We let you in and you're still smoking weed. You're still doing drugs. And Jesse doesn't fight it because I think he knows that it's Jake's. It's if it's not the parents, he knows it's not his. I guess it could be the cleaning lady setting him up, but she'd have no real reason to do it.
No motive, yeah.
Well, it must be Jake's, and he clearly loves his brother, so he takes the heat for it, and they kick him out of the home.
Yeah, he gets tossed, and Jake even comes out, apologizes, but basically he's like, I'm sorry, but can I have that back? Mm-hmm. Essentially. And for a second there, I thought Jesse was going to give it back to him.
Yeah.
But then he crinkles it up, throws it on the ground, and he's like, that's skunk weed anyways. Mm-hmm. And then just basically leaves. One other thing I'd like to just bring out between the two brothers, during the room before the mum bursts in, there's a scene where Jake's he's like, well, Jesse's like, well, you're clearly the favorite, and Jake's like, well, no, you're the favorite, like that, you're all they talk about.
Yeah.
And just to put into perspective, there's a huge age gap between these two. Like Jesse's probably in his mid 20s, maybe even late 20s. Jake is clearly 10 11 maybe. That's it. So you can almost see like it's kind of like a retry, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Like
I
his
agree.
parents kind of said, you know what, we see the road Jesse's heading. He's probably 15, 16 at this point. Well, we'll have another kid and see how that goes. So that can be a slap in the face of Jesse as well, to be honest.
Absolutely great point. Yeah, the age gap. I mean, Jake just looks like a little pup.
Yeah.
He,
Yeah.
So that's a great point. I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, it's almost like, okay, we need our. I always think of The Office because I think of Andy Bernard. He was born. His name was Walter Bernard Jr. And at 4 years old, they changed his name to Andy. They had another son and named him Walter Bernard Jr. because they saw him as the better option. And this is similar because, like you said, Jesse was a 15-year-old doing comics. We saw in this episode he used to draw comics. He actually had one of Mr. White with a stick up his ass, basically. And that was interesting. And but I just think his parents, I think it tells you a lot about how bad of parents they are that they talk about him so much, but do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all talk action, where they see their son, they could help him because they have the financial means. They should have the care, but they just don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great point. It's like they really have just fully given up on him and kind of allocated all their resources to their other child, which I mean, not good for anyone to feel, obviously.
No. No, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, if this is the end, I just thought this was a great ending to an episode.
Mm-hmm.
So Walter's coughing, or yeah, I think he's coughing. He's getting to one of them. He pulls over into a gas station, and who but our great friend, the lawyer from the credit union, pulls into the gas station. He actually honks at an older woman to get going. That just shows you what kind of guy this is.
Yeah.
So he's there, and Walter's looking at him. He's like, you know what? This is my time to get this guy. So what did he do? And I didn't know this was a thing, but I thought this was really cool the first time I saw it, and I loved it obviously even the second time. So Walter goes up and he grabs the wiper from the wash. Mm-hmm. He pops this hood of this guy's car. It's a convertible, so he can just reach over, pops the hood, and then he puts the metal piece onto the battery and pulls it like this, and then you can kind of see it start to fry because the two, like, they're not supposed to touch. Like, obviously they're not supposed to mingle, negative and positive, obviously. And kind of sluts the hood and walks away, and what happens? Thing explodes.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool scene. It's your typical badass walking away from a fire scene. But, this is Walter getting a little revenge back at this guy who kind of wronged him. And we see this throughout the entire episode. And it's just him kind of getting back at these people who maybe snubbed him or maybe shorted him in life. But he's kind of getting his 2 cents. And the final thing I'll say about this is, it's funny because what he told Walter Jr. at the beginning, not maybe the beginning, but throughout the episode, they're sitting together. I think they're in his lab, and he looks at me. It's a small conversation, but all Walter says is, things have a funny way of working themselves out, and that's kind of the basis of this whole episode.
Right. No, for sure. And we, they say cancer man, and Walter normal would never do this, but I think he's almost got a sense of freedom knowing he's on death row, and he's like, well, I'll take this chance that I wouldn't have taken before. And he blows this guy's car up, not caring if he gets caught. And he does it. He walks away. He's got a big smile on his face, and we see it later because in the next episode we will meet his former business partners, and he likes to get back at them throughout the series too, because there's no love lost there. So he likes to get back at people that have wronged him, either later in life or business deals that he feel like he's lost. He likes to get the upper hand at the end of the day.
Yeah, and we'll be here to point them out, each and every one of them.
Every one of them, where Walter just can't. He's got to get the last word. That's the kind of person he is. Now that he's cancer man, well, you're not. No. I'm winning this debate, not you. I win things. So, yeah, that's really the end of this episode. It, like you said, they're slower, but I still think I think it shows where an episode can be slow. I never felt bored in these two episodes because there's stuff happening. You see Walter tell somebody some information, which is interesting because he rarely does that in the show because he's so secretive. But you see Walter Jr., you meet Jesse's parents, you start to see Jesse's little entourage, which we'll get more into. And then also, like you said, the baseline of the show, which is he's got cancer and the financial ruin that his family's in.
Yeah. I think about this while we're talking, Juggy. Is this based off a book? Or is this solely written by the writers?
Solely written, yeah, by Vince Gilligan.
Because it's just phenomenal. Like the whole premise of the show is phenomenal. So like I just thought like maybe by chance it was even based off of maybe not solely a book, but like the idea was based off something that similar to this.
No, this just Vince Gilligan is brilliant. Coming up with this concept. But yeah, I thought the same. And then no, it's just Vince having this idea. I don't know how you come up with this idea for a show, but it's interesting because Skylar's pregnant, and like just to tease, next week in episode 5, we'll meet the woman that Walter was with in episode 3 and her new husband, and what they do in the science world, and what kind of Walter has missed out on in life.
Yeah, learn about his past a little bit, and some of exactly. You're right. The things that he's missed.
So yeah, great episodes tonight. I think it tells us a lot moving forward. It's 7 episodes in season 1. I thought it was 6 or 7. So next week we'll do 5 and 6, and we'll pivot into the end of season 1 the following week. We still have some really interesting characters to meet in season 1, including his business partners, also a little man by the name of Tuco, who I think is fascinating. But what's on the go for you the rest of the week?
I don't have a lot. I'm just going to keep it easy. I think I'm obviously going to visit my mother for Mother's Day. For all you didn't know, like my friend Juggy here, kind of forgot that this is around the corner. Go, kiss your mothers, get them some flowers, and tell them you love them because they do a lot for us, and they don't get a lot in return. Some of them,
No.
especially Jesse Pinkman's parents.
Yeah.
But no. Other than that, not a whole lot. Unfortunately, Cole Caulfield seems to be burning up my favorite division, the North Division. So I got to keep tabs on him, and that little guy hopefully doesn't burn me again. So yeah, that's about it. What about you?
Yeah, gonna be doing a podcast tomorrow night with Jason Bennett, where we're gonna rank our top 10 most interesting athletes in sports right now, and the parameters are kind of whatever you want it to be. For me, it's about kind of interesting interviewers, personality on the field, and it's any sport. I mentioned to you, right now I have one hockey player. I have another one I may throw in. I got a couple baseball. I got a UFC fighter. Yeah, I got a few names. I got baseball players kind of on the rise right now, who I think is a hell of a player and a whole lot of fun.
I think I know who you mean, but I'll keep it. I'm not going to spoil parades.
He's must see TV. This player plays out west. There's a little hint for you. But doing that, a couple more podcasts this week, and then watch some games. Season's almost over in the NHL, the NBA. LeBron reported today he's going to miss Thursday and Friday's games against the Clippers and Trailblazers. Big loss, and he's obviously bitching and complaining with the play-in, which I just think is hilarious.
As he gets closer and closer to it, of course. Yeah, nothing to say.
I want them to finish 7th now. I really do.
I don't know. I think there's some good teams out west. It's tough because if they skid more, and if LeBron loses more games, I mean you got to think that they're going to be down there at the bottom, which obviously is not good. But I wouldn't be worried seeing LA versus, I don't know, like a Memphis or a New Orleans. I don't even know who's in around that spot right now.
8,
Dallas.
If they couldn't 7th, it would be them and Memphis.
Yeah, so you're not super worried, but I guess if Kyle Lowry is dunking 37 points and 11 assists, what?
Number 3 is JV.
Oh yeah, summer threes. Yeah, they might pick up Amir Johnson just solely for that one series, because they never know.
Yeah,
Just draining them all over the place.
it just playing. I'm not sold on it. I know why they're doing it for money, but having Golden State in a play-in, seeing Steph Curry get to play another game, I'll never complain about that.
Yeah, TV ratings.
But yeah, that's one. Baseball, I think, has done a good job to stay relevant this early in the season. I think it's been interesting. Your Dodgers were red hot. Now they're on a slide here.
Well, yeah, they dropped like, I don't know what they dropped, like I think 7 of 8 maybe it was, or maybe
Yeah.
6 of 8. Like it was.
It's 8 of 9 now because they lost this afternoon to the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, Kershaw, he might be. He's not looking so hot right now. I mean, it's a good thing that you have 2 other guys that are fully capable.
Yeah, and tough luck with Dustin May having Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, he's on the old fantasy squad, so he's, what happens today. He's getting dropped like a sack of shit. But no, it's tough. But LA is a deep team, and I got hopes that they'll prevail. I think that
I just like that the division's interesting. Normally,
San Francisco is great. Yeah. Like San Francisco is making moves. Like I wouldn't have thought. Like anyone would have said, oh, San Francisco is going to probably lead the division at some point this year. I would have probably laughed right in their faces. Now I'm like, well, I guess their pitching's doing pretty damn well.
Yeah, no, interesting stuff for sure. Your Leafs play Montreal another 2 times this week. Can't wait for those games.
Next year, buddy. Next year, this is all over, and we're gonna be watching some.
I gotta hope. I gotta hope that there's something out there.
If not, if Trudeau says, "Hey, boys can't cross the border," we'll go. We'll have to make a little trip up to Ottawa, and we'll have a little chat.
Yeah, we'll see what he says. We'll have a meeting with him. We'll do a podcast with him. Talk some Breaking Bad or something. No, have a great rest of the week, Shay, and we'll talk again next week.
Take care, buddy.
All right, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow, but until then, enjoy the nice weather, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.